Today we're going to talk about the last massive intertribal battle that was fought in Canada here in Lethbridge, Alberta. So since the mid-1700s, the Cree tribe from the east started moving westward due to limited bison population in the east. So they started coming out here into the west. Now the Blackfoot tribe was already out here in the west. And because of that, conflict began. There was skirmishes, there was cattle and horse thieving, and there was just these small little engagements going on. Now, the Cree, they created an organization known as the Iron Confederacy. Sort of like the American Confederate States of America, where they have Texas, Georgia, Florida, all joined together to make the Confederacy. This was the same but for native tribes. And so they formed the Iron Confederacy. Now this tribe, they were at war with the Blackfoot. And the Blackfoot, this was their home, they were here, and the Iron Confederacy started moving westward into their territory. And so conflict erupted, and around 1870, a smallpox epidemic erupted here. And the Blackfoot were very sick. They had these things called death lodges, where they just stored all the dead bodies from the pandemic, and it really was bad for the Blackfoot population in this area. And so the Iron Confederacy, knowing this, decided to take advantage of that and launch a massive attack against the Blackfoot. And so they started moving westward here, and their plan was to just wipe out the Blackfoot because they were already sick, they were suffering, they had many dead, and so the plan was just to overpower them. So they started coming out west here. As they're coming out here, a chief known as Piapot had a dream, and as legend goes, that dream was a bison made out of iron, and he was destroying the Cree and the rest of the Iron Confederacy. And he thought that dream meant that they were going to get destroyed if they tried to fight the Blackfoot. And so he told his fellow Iron Confederacy leaders, and a lot of them just kind of wrote it off. And a boy around 10 years old, he witnessed it, and this is what he said. One of the other chiefs said to Piapot: "My children, don't believe in a dream. Advance and capture the Blackfoot Nation, women and children. The smallpox killed off most of their fighters, so we won't be opposed by any great number." And so Piapot, a few of his followers, decided to just forget the campaign and just headed home. The rest of them decided to carry on with the expedition and marched on westward. The night of October 24th, or early morning of the 25th of October 1870, scouts spotted some Blackfoot teepees, just a small number of them. And they stole some horses. They reported back to the main Iron Confederacy camp, and from there they decided, okay, we're going to launch our attack tonight. And so they advanced. They saw these two teepees away from all the others, and so they drew their knives, they slit through the teepees and came in from all angles on the two families living in those teepees, and they killed men, women, and children in those teepees. But there was one kid, and a young boy, and he was able to escape and warn the rest of the Blackfoot further away. Now, what the Iron Confederacy didn't know is that there was a massive Blackfoot camp not too far from their location. Probably around 500, 800 warriors. The Iron Confederacy had about the same amount as well. So the Iron Confederacy started attacking the Blackfoot. Their warriors started to rush in to provide support, and soon a pitched battle began. The Blackfoot, they had superior firearms. They had more up-to-date rifles and muskets and things, and they were still using bow and arrows, clubs, tomahawks, things like that. And so they pushed the Cree back to the ridge line behind me here, and on a couple of ridges they set up positions. Not sure exactly which one it would have been, but it was one of the ones behind me here. And there was some points where they were close enough, they were throwing rocks at one another because they didn't have grenades, so they had to make do with what they had. And so they were taking pot shots at one another there for about 4 hours. The Blackfoot sent a couple scouts on horseback to try and see if they could get a flanking position. One of the scouts was shot and killed, the other, his horse was shot out from under him. Now a man by the name of Jerry Potts, who later became a scout for the Northwest Mounted Police, he was part Scottish and part Native, and he was helping the Blackfoot tribe here. And he took a party of men, and they tried to flank the Cree position. They were able to find a hill that overlooked the Cree position, and they started opening fire on the enemy. The Iron Confederacy, taking extremely heavy fire, decided that they'd pull back. So they started to retreat across the Belly River here that runs in between this coulee here. And as they were fleeing across that river, they were just getting massacred, basically. There was one Blackfoot warrior, and he told his father that if he got an arrow in him, he wouldn't pull it out. And he rushed into battle with 2 knives. He got an arrow in the wrist, possibly got an arrow in the neck as well, and he took down around 2 Cree warriors with a knife. And Jerry Potts said this about the river fight. Jerry Potts said this: "You could fire your eyes shut and kill a Cree that day, just because of how thick the Cree were crossing that river. It would have slowed them down. They would have all grouped together, so you didn't even have to aim to shoot one of them." And so they fled across the river into this area here, and as they're rushing forward, the Blackfoot pursued them. There was an open prairie around there where about 50 of the Cree warriors got killed there. A group of other Cree warriors got to a thicket of trees, and they held out there into the night, where the Blackfoot surrounded them and engaged in a firefight. But the Blackfoot decided this isn't worth it. We've won the battle. We've got wounded we need to tend to. Probably their adrenaline's wearing out. They're exhausted, probably running out of ammunition, so they decided to just call it, head back to camp, and just tend to their wounds and prepare for a possible next attack. And so the Blackfoot pulled back. The Cree are extremely crippled. They had around 200 to 400 men killed out of their 600 to 800 men. The Blackfoot had about 40 to 50 killed and about 50 wounded. And so the Blackfoot came out extremely victorious in this battle, which the Cree were not expecting. The Cree were expecting just a swooping victory. They just clear the Blackfoot out of this area, but it was completely the opposite. About a year later, the Cree decided to make peace with the Blackfoot. They sent them tobacco and officially signed a treaty between the 2 tribes. But tension still exists between the 2 tribes. In 1885, in the Northwest Rebellion, the Blackfoot offered support to the Canadian government, who at the time were at war with some of the Cree warriors in Saskatchewan. And so the Blackfoot just wanted an opportunity to fight the Cree, their blood enemies, basically. And so that is known as the last large intertribal battle in Canada. Some consider it to be the last intertribal battle, but there were other skirmishes and things after that, but they're not very well known because they didn't have a written history. And so a lot of the history of the natives here is just unknown. And so this is the last large-scale intertribal battle that's fought here in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. And if you enjoy videos like these, want to see more like them, please consider to like the video and subscribe. And thanks for watching, and have a fantastic day.
Shall we no more go forward, but tamely travel back? Shall we look on while the traitors they destroy our Union Jack? He never shall surrender the glories of our past, but shoulder still to shoulder, protect them to the last. We must and shall go forward, we'll never travel back, and forever, aye forever, we shall hoist our Union Jack.